Hello, and welcome to I Am Dad Podcast with your fatherhood authority, Kenneth Braswell. 30 minutes of wisdom, information, resources, and nuggets to help you on your fatherhood journey. Or maybe you're just curious and want to hear some real talk about fatherhood, family, and the minds of men. Well, guess what? We got you too. Sit back, grab your pad and pen, and maybe even bring a little something to sip on. Enjoy 30 straight minutes of fatherhood, family, and fun with the Fatherhood Authority, Kenneth Braswell.
Welcome to I Am Dad Podcast. I'm your host, Kenneth Braswell. Continuing to enjoy this year as we are getting closer to the end. I have absolutely no idea where this year has gone. It has probably been because my head has just been down and I've just been plowing forward, not giving a lot of thought to time, just working the things that I'm trying to accomplish in life and the things that I'm trying to accomplish in my work. And I think that just keeps me focused on the task at hand, right? Because we're in a environment right now that demands that we stay focused, particularly those of us who are doing passion-driven, purpose-driven work, and particularly those of us who are working and serving at the same time, like our guest today. His name is Dwayne Roberts. He is a U.S. Army veteran, not-for-profit leader. He is a certified facilitator and passionate voice for redemption, restoration, and second chances. He is the founder of Men of Vision, Colorado. Dwayne has devoted his life to empowering formerly incarcerated men, equipping them with tools to rebuild, realign, and rise into purpose. Whether he's serving as an associate pastor, consulting with organizations on cultural change, or mentoring men navigating reentry, Dwayne's message is clear. You are not your past. You are your vision. Known for his clarity, his energy, and heart-centered leadership, Dwayne helps men and fathers across the country rewrite their story from survival to significance. How you doing, my friend?
What's happening, Kenneth? Thank you.
No, thank you. I don't know what's in the air, but I think my last 3 to 4 guests all served in the U.S. Army. And so we ended up getting sidetracked and talking about that. I was like, you know what? Because we could talk about that, forever. It's just really interesting that you just don't take into consideration that so many people have served this country, who just doesn't kind of, talk about it in an ironic way. It's kind of like, yeah, we did serve this country and this country's not serving us. And so it's just that's a whole nother conversation. I got to, at some point, kind of pick that up and talk specifically about that. But this morning, we want to talk about you and the work that you're doing, Dwayne. We start our podcast off very uniquely. We just met, we're talking, and the conversation of fatherhood comes up, and you start telling me your daddy story. What's your daddy story? You're on mute.
Thank you. What's my daddy story? Gosh, I didn't grow up, I didn't grow up knowing my father,
Mm-hmm.
my biological dad.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, I have a phenomenal man in my life, mentor, dad. I call him Pop, who really raised, groomed us, and set me on a trajectory to where I am today. Not having a father, growing up in a single family home with just my mom. When Pop came along, he found me in my roughest years,
Mm-hmm.
But his patience, his diligence, his commitment, his love, man, won me over in time. And today we have a phenomenal relationship. I owe so much to who I am because of who he was in my life as a man, dad, and leader.
Yeah, I love redemption. I love, like I saw in some of your work that, and given that you just said a lot of who he is who you are, I can now clearly see why you're a man of second chances and redemption. because those things are critical in our lives. It's critical that we not continue um, to treat people like their past choices. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely. We're not our past choices. So many men are challenged in that place where they believe that their mistakes limit them or make them who they are, and so therefore they never develop or move into who they were designed to become.
Mhm. Mhm. You're a veteran, like myself, and I'm always curious as to why you chose that path.
A veteran, the military. We talking?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Okay, I love it. It was a childhood dream. Bruh,
Really?
yeah, if I could tell you, I was the kid that if you looked outside, I was rolling around in the grass with a stick in my hand.
In the prone position.
Yeah, that was me, bruh. I was the type of dude, man. I'm gonna age myself here, but when John Wayne Army movies came on, I
Mhm.
was sitting in front of them and I was learning everything I needed to learn so I can go in the backyard and practice it. Um, so when it
That
came to joining the military, there was two choices. I can keep doing what I was doing, or I can follow my dream. And I
mhm,
thank God for a mother, a praying mother, who knew her son's hearts and dreams. Because at the end of the day, Kenneth, if I could be quite honest, I was already heading down the wrong path. I wasn't even
mm,
on the trajectory of going in the military. Mom
mm,
picked me up on a Thursday afternoon, took me straight to the recruiter. They took me to take the ASVAB. I
mhm.
passed the ASVAB. Friday morning, I was finding a job on active duty. And Monday morning, I was catching a flight to South Carolina.
Wow. Yeah, mine was different. I just happened and I'm like you, just happened to not be going in the right direction. Um, came became perfect at um, pulling the wool over my mother's eyes and not allowing her to kind of see. I wasn't a bad kid. I don't think we were bad kids, right? We just were drifting, right? And weren't drifting in the right direction. I just happened to be passing by the recruiter's office and something now I know what it was. Is God saying, this is your path. It's not where you're going. And I stood out there and I just kind of walked in, just to hear. And his brother, smooth looking brother. You know how they get us, know how the recruiter's good, smooth recruiter. He told me everything I needed to hear. He asked all the questions he needed to ask. I was 17 at the time. I couldn't join by myself. So I had to go back and tell my mother, hey, I think this is what I want to do. I think this is where I want to go. And she signed me up, and the rest is history. Now, I didn't do like you did. I had a mission. My mission was 3 years and I'm done. I am not staying not a day later than 3 years. Man, recruiters used to come to my room in Germany because I was in Germany, and they be trying to sell me on all kinds of things. I'm like, "You wasting your time, bro. You need to get up out of here. I'm going back to Brooklyn. I'm done. I did what I wanted to do. I set out on a mission. I don't know if I accomplished that whole mission because I was looking for something. My father wasn't in my life. I
Yeah.
was looking for manhood. I was looking for guidance. I was looking for my own level of masculinity. I think I found some of it, but I didn't find all of it. 20 years. What made you stay in the 20? Well, you already said you loved it. You was trying to stay in, but why'd you get out? Because if you loved it that much, you should have gone past 20, right?
Well, yeah, ironically, right? It was a childhood dream. It was all I ever wanted to do. My goal was to serve 20 years. Unfortunately, I did 15. I did 15 years on active duty, caught a felony charge, and had to walk away from active duty. Thank God I walked away with my benefits intact.
Mhm,
But it was this moment in my life where God had to really I guess get hold of me, get my attention,
mhm,
so to speak. Like I said, so yeah, I did 15 years active duty.
mhm. What was your MOS?
92 Yankee. I was logistics.
Okay.
I started as an alpha. Everything I did was around logistics. I thought I was going to be a ranger or special forces. John Wayne had sold me. I didn't
Mhm,
need the recruiter. I
mhm,
was sold already. But when I started realizing they jump out of planes and your boy's scared of heights, I was like, no, that's not gonna work for me. That's not gonna work for me. I need something I
Makes
can do.
absolute no sense to jump out of a perfectly running airplane, right?
Right.
That's crazy. I'm hearing a path here, Dwayne, because you also have now an affinity for working specifically with men who were incarcerated. Talk a little bit about that.
Man, it's my own journey, man. Like I told you, I was facing a 3-year felony conviction. I was sitting in county lockup. 60 days I served in county lockup. And I
Mm,
can start hearing God speaking to me, like, and a few questions he asked was like, "What do you see?" I said, "I see men. I'm in a pod. I'm surrounded by 75 men." He said, "What else do you see?" At this point, Ken, if I had been there about 2, maybe 2.5 weeks, and I kind of got to know the lay of the land. I
mhm,
knew who did what, how things move, and I
mhm,
saw guys with potential. They was running this spot.
mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the Holy Spirit just whispered to me, "And you're one of them." And when I did the reflection, I was one of the guys who was behind bars limiting his potential. And
Wow.
at that moment, I didn't really know what that meant, if I could be
Mhm,
quite honest. Of
mhm,
course, I started reading the word, I started praying, and just wanted to get more clarity. Fast forward a year later, maybe yeah, about a year later, I'm still on active duty, but I got to make a decision. I got to decide if I'm going to stay or am I going to walk away. At this
mhm,
point, life looked hopeless. I was miserable. I was frustrated. I was angry because my dream to retire wasn't going to happen. I had to make this decision,
mhm,
and sitting on the back porch drinking. Look, I mean, I'm chugging away on America's finest, but like,
mhm,
I'm smoking and tweaking hard on Colorado's top shelf.
mhm,
I just want the pain to go away,
mhm,
and in the midst of that, a song plays in the background by Otis Redding, "Sitting on the Dock of the Bay."
mhm,
And in that song, there's this hook where he says, "I'm just allowing my life to pass away."
mhm,
And I realized in that moment that things needed to shift and change. And I'll never forget because this was a pivotal moment in my life. Not only did I have to make a decision, but I was already making the decision to walk away from my family. I was
mhm,
already making the decision that I wasn't good enough for my wife, for my kids. I had let everybody down. I am, I am not the man that I thought I was, and I can never be that man, if that
mhm,
makes sense, right?
mhm,
So this hurt, this pain, this anguish is all flustering in me. And as I try to run away from my responsibility, God called me back. And I ran in the house and I wrote 3 words down that became the ever changing factor for my life and what propelled me into doing the work that I do. And that's vision, plan, execute. Where can you see your life going? What's the practical plan or steps that you need to apply? And what's the actions that you need to take? Today, I'm able to do what I do because I realize that for men who can't see the hope, I want to help you build a vision of what life could possibly look like.
right. Yeah. Yeah, no, before I get to this next question, I want to back up because I now want to tie this piece in so we can move forward with all of these elements wrapped into who you are. When did you begin to understand the importance of leaning on your faith? Because it sounds like you've known it all the time. It sounds like it was a guide even when you didn't know it was a guide. You just had to become more aware of it and activate it.
Absolutely. This go back to Pop. See,
Okay.
this go
Okay.
back to Pop. Pop was a minister. He was a pastor. He ran church. He established churches, and we would go to church every Sunday morning. So faith was part of who I was as a man, but it was something I was running away to because I thought I had to be something else
Mm,
in life.
mhm,
And so that sit down, those 60 days in county lockup was my awakening, my epiphany to say, hold on, if you're going to do anything in life successfully, you got to get connected to the source.
Mm. Yeah, that's one of those things that's been kind of like feeding me. A lot of scriptures are feeding me lately, trying to like, focus on one. But every time I focus on one, God gives me three others. It's like, all right, God, you're moving too fast right now. Let me settle in on this one. But the one that I've been kind of settled in the most, Dwayne, is, you know, everything in life has a purpose. And I think when we speak about that particular scripture, we always frame it in the sense that he's only talking about good things. No, he says all things, which means that even bad things have a purpose. I was doing a training and I was talking to some guys and I was like, um, I was asking them the question, have you ever hated God? Have you ever like were disappointed in him because of your circumstance? And asked the question, why? And they were like, because that's not what he said. That's not what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm like, no. I was like, he wouldn't have given it to you if he didn't believe you can withstand it. And so, not everybody in life, in fact, nobody in life gets to go through life without struggle. Unfortunately, some of us have to go through more struggle than others. Right? But the goal is to come out on the other side strong no matter what it is. Yeah, as a human, we can look at it and say, it's not fair that I lost my parents. It's not fair that I lost my child. It's not fair that I was going through some horrific abuse. It's not fair that it's not fair. It's not fair. The question is, what are you going to do with it now? How are you going to channel that into something that is going to activate your blessing? And I think what I'm hearing you say is that, as you look back on your life, you probably couldn't see it then, but now you can look back on it and you can actually embrace it and say, okay, I get it. I thought I was supposed to do 20 because that's what I wanted, but that wasn't your plan for me. Your plan for me was 15, and it took you a minute to kind of figure out that no, everything that I've gone through was purposeful because if it wasn't for that, you and I wouldn't be talking right now.
Come on. Amen. Yeah, but no doubt. We always have that's part of how I try to train men. There's a desire that you want, but then there's a desire that's more purpose filling.
Hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want the fancy house. I want the nice car. I want the bag. I
Mm,
want the beautiful woman on my arm. I want everything that every man wants, right?
right.
But there's
Mhm.
something about connecting to purpose or and looking for fulfillment. And let me be quite honest, Kenneth. I ain't get here overnight.
Right.
You you know what I'm saying? It's been bumping your heads. It's been some glass ceilings. There's been a lot of doubt. There's been a lot of fear. But what I've learned through this process is when you relinquish control and let God have control,
Mm,
oh man, there's more peace.
yeah.
There's more joy.
Yeah.
There's more happiness. I
Right.
bet if you ask men what do they really want out of life, they're gonna say, I'm looking for peace, joy, and happiness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I'm doing a training right now called uh, Faith Over Fear. And the core element of the training is around the notion that faith and fear cannot exist together. If you are faithful, there can be no fear.
Yes,
If you are fearful, then I have to ask you, where is your faith?
absolutely.
You can't be faithful and be fearful. That makes no sense whatsoever. I've also been telling folks, and this is like, I just wrote this book called Two Seasons to Care, and it's how aging um, has turned experience into wisdom and liberation. It's that this is where the seasoning comes from, right?
Yeah,
Life,
yeah.
right? And so now that I have it, I can see life a little differently. And I've heard this said a number of different ways, but I have embraced another answer that God has given me about how he answers us when we ask for something. And I think he answers us in three ways. It is either yes, not now, or I have something else for you.
It's
We
never
think
no.
there's a no in there. It's not a no, it is not your way,
Yeah.
my way, right? But we interpret that as a no because that's not what I asked for, right? And so I think the conversation that you are having, which I want to roll right into Men of Vision, is like these principle based things that we have recognized. We now know you talk about plan, implement. What was it you said? Plan,
Vision, plan, execute.
vision. You saw it, you're planning it, and now you're implementing it because now you have the favor to be able to sit back and see the path, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So talk to me about Men of Vision. Where'd that come from? I'm sure it came from all of this, but you did have to you had to get focused at some point.
Man, I wish I was in my living room right now. Um, some 20 years ago, when I first met my wife, we bought this painting, couple paintings, African American paintings. One that says, have a picture of three women, and the caption reads, "Women looking ahead."
Mhm.
And then there's another painting of three men with the caption that says, "Men of Vision."
Mm,
That day, I ran back up in the house and I got vision. Spoke to me, vision, plan, execute. Right over my television is that painting where it says Men of Vision.
mm,
That's why Men of Vision was born. I
mhm,
had been looking at this thing for over 20 years, not realizing that every time I read the caption, it was penetrating the heart. It was
mm,
calling me to something stronger, more purposeful, more fulfillment. Today, I get a phenomenal opportunity um, to work with formerly incarcerated men, those in recovery, and we have a spiritual growth element where I bring men into a spiritual growth community, and we want to get clear on what God has to say about us to us.
mhm,
How do I tap into what I was truly designed to do? How do I
mm,
remove the limiting beliefs? How do I overcome the fear? How do I find the confidence to step into what I believe God is calling me to?
mhm. Yeah. Why is it so important that men tap into their faith? I don't know if we talk about that enough. We kind of always want to give commands and demands to men, but we never talk to them about the importance of. I say it two ways, Dwayne. I say some. It depends on who I'm talking to. Talking to you, I'm always going to say faith. But I know sometimes when you get in a room, you have to be conscious that not everybody in the room understands faith. And so, what I will say is, what do you believe in? Because you
Mm,
have to believe in something, right? Now, if it's a tree, I might question, what a tree can do for you. But if you believe in it, you have to give me some sense of why you believe in it. What can that tree do for you that you can't do for yourself? But why is it important that men, A, either have faith or they believe in something?
Man, that's a great question. I think it's important that men ha- believe in something and have faith. It's because when you look at the word believe, Believe, we always subject to the word in the middle of believe. That's the lie.
Mm,
We fall subject to the lie. Whatever we tell ourselves, whatever we think, you know, if I look at the sky and I see it's blue, you might say it's pink. That's
mm,
what I believe, you
mhm,
know. And at the end of the day, the enemy, comes to steal from us what we believe. And if we can't find belief or hope or in God, faith in God, then at the end of the day, we aimlessly moving throughout life. Now, I got it. Faith look like a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
Right.
I'm not. I'm not here. I don't want to. I want to be careful what I say because I want to respect others' faith or what they believe. However, the one thing I know, the true and living God, Jehovah, my provider, my Prince of Peace, the one who loved me enough to send his son to die for me,
Mm-hmm.
man, when you think about why God sent his son or why Jesus went on the cross, you got to ask yourself, is there really a God? Does he
Mm-hmm.
really love or care for me enough? And if so, how do I get to know who this God is in my life? And when I started really dissecting and looking at um, all that Christ paid for me,
Mm-hmm.
I realized that at the end of the day, my faith, I had no choice I had no choice but to believe. There was nothing else in my life that attracted me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, there was nothing else in my life that it was nothing I can do for myself at the end of the day. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it just wasn't anything else I could do. It had to come to a place of acknowledgement. It had to come to a place of understanding who God is in my life and just learning to trust. Trust what scripture was saying. And interesting enough, each time I would read the word, I would see God show up in my life in
Mm-hmm.
in different areas in my life. Here's a personal story. My wife and I'm on active duty. Now, if you don't, you a soldier, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't. Everybody for some reason think we got plenty bread, but at the end of the day, I ain't had plenty bread, bro.
Right.
There were days that we were struggling, and I'll never forget this. I tell this story quite frequently. I had no bread no money in the bank account. I was waiting 3 days for payday, and
Mm-hmm.
all we had in the house, literally, what we had was a leg quarter, chicken leg quarter, and 2 potatoes. 3 days, I gotta go. Now, the average person eats about maybe 3 meals a day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you make a leg quarter and 2 potatoes last 3 days. I don't know how you do that.
Mm-hmm.
But neither do I know how Jesus took the loaves and the fish and fed 5,000. But I
Mm-hmm.
do know that he prayed over it.
Right.
And I prayed over this meal for my wife and I. And Kenneth, I lied to you not. The food kept looking like it was replenishing itself. We would eat the chicken and the potatoes in the evening. I wouldn't have breakfast or lunch, but I would come at the evening. We would pray over the meal. We would have share the meal together and try to save. Let's say it this way: we cut the chicken in half. We ate. I got a bite of the drumstick. She got a bite of the drumstick. I got a couple of potatoes. She got a
Mm-hmm.
couple of potatoes. Does
Mm-hmm.
that make sense?
Yeah.
Right? We trying to make this meal last. Brother,
Mm-hmm.
I lied to you not. Every time we went back to the meal seemed like it was more. It just kept looking like it kept replenishing itself to the place and point that I had to eventually toss the meal out. And my wife, we talk about this quite frequently. Like, yo, how did God show up? And it's those things for myself that caused me to believe the way that I believe because I've seen him do it time and time in my life. And now when challenges arise, when when I'm facing difficulty, how am I going to face them? Am I going to run, cry about it? Am I going to turn to drinking and drugging? That's
Mm-hmm.
what I did when I was on the back porch. Now I have more hope. I have more faith. I no longer fall victim to the lie.
Right.
I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah. You have to, I think part of what it is that at some point you have to stop looking at the substance of a thing and start to look at the potential and the promise of a thing. Right. I remember one time having a conversation, it's in my book, I talk about it, meeting my wife. And I was telling Amber, my situation, which was close to yours. I'm just like broke as a joke. I ain't have a job. I ain't have nothing. Ran into her mom, who I knew through some community stuff at one of the lowest points in my life. And we were chatting and she said, "Oh, we need to get together at some point." And I said, and I probably was the most truthful time of my life too. I said, "Listen, I ain't got no job. I ain't got nothing." I was like, I said, the only thing, and I jokingly said, the only thing I could do with you is make you a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. That's what I said to her. And she started laughing and she said, "I like peanut butter and jelly."
Come on.
And I was like, "Oh, all right. Well, yo, come over. I make some peanut." That's all I had. She came over. I asked her all the, prerequisite questions. Do you like more jelly than peanut butter? Do you like them placed both on the same bread and put together or separately? But like how you want it? You want me to peel the ends off? All that kind of cut it in a triangle, cut it in a square. How you want it? Milk, water, what you drink it, what you eat it with.
Kid, if you turn into Chef Peanut Butter and Jelly.
Got it perfect. We had lunch, we watched TV, we ate peanut butter and jelly and laughed, and that was the start of our relationship. And I told my daughter, I said, the moral of that story is your mother didn't see my circumstance, she saw my potential,
Yes. Yes.
right? And it takes a special kind of person and someone who's tapped into their faith to know when they're looking at substance that doesn't represent potential and promise, right? Because promise is the other thing. Potential and promise. I'm promising you something, but in order for you to get it, you got to be able to see potential because my promise may not look like the substance,
Man, that's good.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wonder if that is one of the principles when you're working with your men, particularly incarcerated men, that you're trying to get them to understand, and that is everybody's not going to see your potential or your promise.
Yes. Yes. And no. I say
Okay.
that. I say yes and no. At the end of the day, no, everybody's not going to see your potential, but what everybody sees doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah.
Does that make sense? It's what you see about you, and
Yeah.
that's the struggle that most men have is they don't see their potential. They
Right.
don't see who they can become.
Right.
They can't see the possibilities of what they can do. The moment you get clear with the vision where you think life can possibly go, the moment you start putting a 1, 2, 3 step a plan in the process and take the first step and execute,
Mm-hmm.
man, listen, God, I believe, is looking for action takers. He's
Mm.
looking for men to take action on what he's calling them to. Yeah, I got it. You're going through a tough time. What action are you going to take?
Right.
Are you gonna take the complaining, the road to Complainville, or you going to figure it out, navigate this thing, and not throw spaghetti at the wall. We don't want
Mhm.
to see what stick. We
Right.
we want to we want to take some actionable steps that's going to get us and lead us on the road to prosperity, to the road of hope, to a
Mm-hmm.
hold up to the road to a brighter future.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Think of it
Yeah.
like this: Nehemiah, man, I love this. Nehemiah was an action taker. I
Yeah.
got it. He didn't have the best job, but there was something that was moving him to go take action. for for a particular people, right?
Mm-hmm.
This place in my life, I realized that God was calling me to take action for a particular people because it was a pain point in my life.
Right. Right.
How,
Right.
how am I going to help them rebuild? Where are the areas in their wall, their security, their comfort zone that's broken that they can't see hope for? How do we help them not patch it up, but rebuild it, refortify it, make it
Mm-hmm.
stronger? That's because men become visionaries, men become planners, men become executors. They start execute. They intentionally take action on the things that's important to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you see that conversation in houses of worship lacking, where we're speaking into the spirits of men?
Oh yeah. Listen, I just come back from the DMV. We had a phenomenal men's retreat. We had about 30 guys in the room. Shout out to my man Harold, his wife Karen, and her team, her sister, her prayer team. Man, they really set us up for success. Their support. But to answer your question, yes, there's men in ministry leaders that's struggling for purpose.
Mm.
Everybody want to do the right thing, but everybody's not committed to do or follow through.
Mm.
We find shortcuts. We find it, I'll do it later. We have the do it later attitude. We never moving intentionally to the actionable steps that God is calling us to. And then we wonder why we stuck. We wonder why we hit the glass ceiling because we're not doing the inner work. At the end of the day, it's about character building. It's not even about reaching the goal.
Mm-hmm.
It's about who you become in the process.
Right. Yeah.
The cupbearer became a leader of men who wanted him to be the prime minister because his integrity was intact. His commitment was intact. His consistency was hold on, let me rephrase it. They wanted him to become their prime minister because one, he was accountable.
Mm-hmm.
Two, he was committed. Three, he was transformational. Four, he was intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Five, he remained optimistic. Six, when they wanted to quit, he didn't let them quit. They never quit.
Mm-hmm.
He was an action taker.
Right.
He was accountable. He was committed. He was transformational. He was intentional. He was optimistic and never quit. That's what men have to develop into to build their character, to accomplish the things that they've been called to.
Right.
When your character is intact, guess what? Your purpose is, you begin to fulfill purpose. When you start fulfilling purpose, you start reaching goals that you never thought you can reach.
Right.
Too many of us are focused on the outcome, not the income. Like, and when I mean income, I ain't talking about money.
Right.
I'm talking about the clarity, the connection, the
Mm-hmm.
currency that you develop when you become the man that God is calling you to be.
Right. How do you become that man, though, if you've never seen that man develop?
Prayer.
Okay.
First thing Nehemiah did was pray.
Right.
Acknowledgement. Acknowledge where I am. Lord, I know I fall short. I'm not the best at this. You know, and then just do the reflection boy. Do the
Okay.
reflection boy in your life. You got to be willing to see. I know we like to think we do everything right. I know I do. I do everything right, Ken, but I don't make no mistakes. Right?
Even you do wrong right, right?
Right. I do wrong right. But go get that opinion from somebody else.
Okay.
Right? Get that opinion from somebody else, and they'll start telling you, hey, listen, these things I see And of course, they don't feel good when people point out your flaws, but you have to be willing to assess yourself and say, "Hey, how does this really show up in my life?"
Mm-hmm.
And if it's showing up in my life, one, how can I overcome it, or what do I need to do better?
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Or what do I need to remove?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's either something you need to do, or there's something that you need to remove from your life.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got to make the commitment to either do it or remove it. Not being passivity about it and say, I'm just waiting on God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the things I've been thinking about lately is this whole notion of leaders of men, right? You just kind of talked a little bit about um, even folks in leadership are still broken. Hurt people, right? Misled people mislead people. And so the question is, what's the work that has to be done in bringing in the healing factor to leaders of men?
Men got to be willing to get in the room, to have the real, authentic, vulnerable conversations.
Mm,
That's to include ministry leaders too.
mm-hmm.
We can't just move and act like my poop don't stink. I can't. You just can't move and think, well, God gave it to me. Does that make sense? Um, Nehemiah got in the room. He went and collected all the leaders. He shared the vision, and he created the buy-in. He gave them clarity, and then he connected with them,
Mm-hmm.
and then he was able to give currency. Currency is never what you receive; it's always what you give. He gave added value to men who needed it, so they can go do the work that they've been called to do. And the same has to happen for within our leaderships, within our churches, that these men need, or just within the community of men, we have to be able to get in a room where we feel safe,
Mm-hmm.
where we can have the open, authentic conversation, be vulnerable, and find the trust. At the same time, we have to be in the rooms that give us clarity and understanding about where life may be leading. Like, let's say it this way: I can't I can't want to grow spiritually, but I'm in the the online football community.
Okay.
If I want to grow spiritually, I need to be in the right room. I need to
Mm-hmm.
be connected to the right people,
Mm-hmm.
because while I like online football, you know, at the end of the day, it's not getting me where I need to be. And sometimes some of the rooms that we're in, we haven't even vetted them. We haven't even looked at as if, is this the room for me? God, is this where you have me? We get connected to people because, oh, well, so and so said it, or because everybody's going here,
Mm-hmm.
versus allowing God to lead you into a room, or lead you into a community where you realize that, you know what, that word is rich.
Right.
Man,
Yeah.
I can really learn something from this community.
Mm-hmm.
We just want to get in any room, and then we want to say we part of a group. It's not any room. It's it's a room that's specifically designed to get you where you need to be moving forward.
Right. Yeah. My wife and I was having a conversation some time ago, and we were talking about she's at the tail end of her ministerial training now. And so I love her for a lot of different reasons. But one of the cool things I get to do with her is have this kind of faith conversation sometimes with her as I'm going through my fatherhood, manhood kind of stuff to just make sure that scripturally I'm making sense, right? Because sometimes you can read a scripture and if you don't know the
Mm.
context of it, you can, interpret it the wrong way. So she's my backdrop whenever I get hung up on a scripture and have a thought about it. And then sometimes we have debates because she sees it differently than I do, but the Bible is interpretive that way, right? It is supposed to be that way. Not everybody is going to read the same scripture the same way. But the question that I asked her this particular day, we were talking about fear, and we were talking about where fear came from. And I was telling her about a podcast that I was doing, and I had interviewed someone, and I asked them the question, what is the number one character trait that you see when men come to you for help?
Mm.
And their answer was desperation. And I was like, I said, I hear you. I said, but I have a different thought about that. I said, desperation is a secondary emotion that is usually stimulated from fear. You can't resolve desperation without resolving your fear. And so my question to my wife was, if church is oftentimes the last place that people go to when when they can't come up with their own answers for things, when they can't make it happen for them, particularly folks who have some sort of faith, will say, I done did everything that I could possibly do. I can't do anything for myself. I'm gonna go to church this Sunday. Right. And so, but their reasoning is, I'm going to church because hopefully God can fix this. I can get me an answer. So my question to her was, if that's the case, if you was describing that person as someone who is going to church that Sunday out of desperation, if they're so desperate, why do they leave?
Mm.
And I said, I don't think that they leave because they're no longer desperate. They leave because they're now more fearful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so when you're working with the men you're working with and you're trying to help them to get aligned for you, is that the case when you're looking in the eyes of your men? Are they really, can you see some level of either desperation and or fear about something?
Man, depending on where these jokers are at, right? These,
Mm.
you know,
See
fresh
all
out.
kinds of things, right?
Yeah, it could be all kind of things, right? Um, it all depends where they are, man.
Mm.
When they transitioning from prison.
Okay.
But let's just say from men from a whole, right? What I find is that most men lack confidence.
Mm.
They lack identity, and therefore they put on what's that? The imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
It becomes the mask we wear,
Mhm.
and we wear it so firmly. We hold on to it so tight that we forget and lose who we were truly designed or what we were truly like before, you
Mhm.
know. And so um this place of finding confidence, finding identity, um, and letting go of the mask has been the place um, that's been the most challenging for men.
Well, okay. Yeah. When you get a phone call from a church that asks you to come in and do some training for their congregation, what do you think they're trying to solve?
um, that's a good question. I don't know. Uh,
Because I'm one of those guys that when something happens, it's I would say I would stop short of saying that it's comical, but it is something that allows me to be able to try to understand why somebody is asking me something when I don't think it's off when I think it's off track. I always say to myself, I wonder how that conversation started in the room. Like, what
yeah.
was the conversation in the room that they were having that ultimately they got to the point and said, we need to call Dwayne to come in and work with our men. And it's like, what was that conversation? So, which is, what is that thing that compelled them to say, we need to do something. We can't do it ourselves. We need to call him to come in to help him with this issue.
Oftentimes it's a leadership issue,
Mm.
and leadership flows from the top. So if you're seeing behaviors in your organization or your church that that's ticking you off, that's cutting against the grain, keeping
Mhm.
productivity from happening.
Mhm.
Um, as the leader, you got to do the assessment, boy,
Right.
because if you see it in the body, it's because you demonstrating. And sometimes, kind of like that imposter syndrome,
Mhm.
these are blind spots. These are areas in our life that we don't even realize they show up. We just think we should act this way when
Mm.
we're not being authentically who we need to be, so God can do the work that He needs to do.
Right.
And sometimes, as leaders, we have to get out our own way so we can allow our team to do their work. And we get out of our own way by becoming better versions of ourselves as leaders.
Mm.
That way, because people do what they see leaders do. If the leader is always complaining about somebody, what you think about to happen down the line? Right. But what if
Yeah.
that every time I walk in the room, I see that leader praying and reading his word, and he's asking open-ended questions, getting advice from other people.
Mm.
How do you think that changed the culture in that ministry?
Mhm.
And what we're finding is, one, ministry leaders are overburnt. They're burnt out. COVID did a work on us. They
Wow.
was already burning out, but
Mhm.
they really burnt out. They trying to do everything themselves. They the cameraman, they the mic man.
Mm.
You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Mhm.
And they haven't found the team that they need, or they haven't found the group. They haven't built the community that they need so they can get the results that they want. At,
Right.
at the end of the day, people are looking for leaders to show up, be consistent, do what they say they're going to do. And when you become that type of leader, and you live the value, let me add that, you live the value.
Mhm.
Oh man, you attract people who want to come and support. They start adding creativity. And if you're the type of leader shutting down everybody's ideas, well, no wonder you're alone. No wonder your ministry is struggling, because
Right.
you're not open enough to receive the valued input from other people.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, and so
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that, it's interesting because our church, here in Atlanta, I always say that we have a extremely unique church and against the norm. Probably 85 to 90% of our church are young African American millennial professionals, married. That's not, you don't see that in churches. You
Mm-mm.
see levels, right? You
Mhm,
see
mhm.
the old guard, the old school guard,
Yep.
the leadership, and then it kind of goes down from there. Very different. And I often wonder, um, for them, and have never done an assessment in terms of, why that is the case. But I think, familiarity draws familiarity, right? So when someone sees a church like that, it's kind of fascinating because you can relate across the board when you're seeing other families and other couples in that space. I was talking to someone about Sarah
Mhm,
Jakes. And I said, I love listening to her. I said, but I often wonder, like most churches that have young pastors these days that have done what you just talked, which is the production. They're doing the production very well. I wonder, is she emulating what she saw her father do, or is she continuing what her
mm.
father did? Because what he did was a continuation coming out of a storefront church in West Virginia. One could say what she's doing is emulating her father that she saw as the leader of the Potter's house. So I wonder, in our transition from generations, whether or not the core purpose of why you and I have such a strong faith transfers into the younger generations so that their motivation is still that strong faith and not just emulating what they see others doing for the production of it.
Man, that's so good. I love that. That's real good, because at the end of the day, people do what they see leaders do.
Right.
Like, my kids, they'll walk in and see me praying.
Right.
Does that mean that they praying throughout the day? Not necessarily.
Right.
But here's what scripture says. You lead up a child in the way that he should go, and they'll never depart. While they may
Mm.
not be practicing it today, doesn't mean that some moment or somewhere down the line that they go back to what they recall in life.
Mm.
Emulating isn't a bad thing.
Right.
Shucks, I got here today because I watch people do it better than me.
Right.
Right? But
Yeah.
then in the midst of emulating, there's that drive for more fulfillment. There's that drive to say, "Hey, hold on, I can't do this." We find the confidence in emulating. We find, but we don't want to stay a copycat. We don't
Mm.
want to copy people. We want to take, okay, man, he got a camera, he got a mic. You know what I'm saying? I want to go get me a camera and a mic.
Right.
Do you understand? That's emulating.
Yes.
You,
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
but what I am not is I'm not a TD Jakes. I'm a Dwayne
Mhm.
Roberts.
Right.
You
Yeah.
understand? You still got to find your voice.
Right.
You still got to follow the vision. You still got to follow the steps. You got to take the actionable steps,
Yeah.
because it's not throwing pasta at the wall. It's plug and play. It's learn. Okay, this work. This ain't work. No, that wasn't me. This is me.
Hmm.
And then when
Yeah.
we find that authentic voice, all of a sudden you look different to people. You sound different to people. Why? Because you did the work that needed to be done to become the person that you want to be. It's character building.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
character building.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the work, man. Dwayne, I'm so glad I found you, bro. Like, keep raising your voice, man. That's how, we get connected, right? And I just started following you. We need to stay connected, to continue to deepen this work that we're talking about across the country. And I haven't really kind of figured out, because I'm so deep with, just serving and doing that level of the work. I'm still trying to find my pathway back into houses of faith to kind of figure out how to strengthen those spaces as well, as it relates to particularly the building of men, because that's my calling. My calling was 3 words. Well, 5 words: speak to the hearts of men. That was my calling. And it took me a minute to understand why God was telling me to speak to the hearts of men. Because if he knew I could speak to their hearts, he knew I could impact how they think. He knew if I impact how they think, I can impact what they do. But you got to start in the heart. And I think that's where people miss men. They want to start dealing with the things they see us do without recognizing that what they're doing is as a result of how they're thinking, and how they're thinking is as a result of how they're feeling. But no one wants to ask me and you how we're feeling.
No. Yeah. And nobody wants to speak to the hearts of men. I love that, because that's literally how I see myself.
Right.
As the guy, I want to speak to the hearts of men. That's the place where it begins. God spoke to us in the heart.
Right.
That's where it derives your purpose. That's where the enemy wants to come up here.
Right.
He want to cloud the mind.
Right.
But God is calling you fulfillment. It's in the heart. Speak to the hearts of men. Allow my words to fulfill your be placed in your heart. Let's say, I think the scripture say, let the words be carved in your heart. That's because you spending time with God. You are diligently seeking God. So I love what you say. Like, this place of, like, I've been called to speak to the hearts of men. I'm a diddle that, Kenneth.
Yes, go ahead. Go for it. Go for it.
I put that in anytime I go up and speak, I'm always grateful for the opportunity to speak to the hearts of men.
Right. Yeah. Nah, that's the work. Because you put it in your heart, it's protected, right? Yeah. And it doesn't go. It's not influenced.
Yeah.
Once it gets in your heart, it's hard to influence it, outside of that particular space. But man, I appreciate you. Tell people how they can find you.
Man, you can find me on all social media platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Just look for Menovision or Dwayne Roberts. Also, man, you can go to the webpage, DwayneHRoberts.com. Go learn more about how I love to impact the lives of men, influence men to do the things that they're most fearful of doing, find the confidence to step into the man that God called them to be.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man. And as my bishop says to me, and I have taken it from him, and I say it to everybody that I leave, I love you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. And to all of my I Am Dad podcast listeners, you know how I like to leave you. Always be kind to others as you're kind to yourself, or you might find yourself by yourself. Always shoot high for your goals, because even if you miss, you'll be amongst the stars. And as my good friend and mentor always said to me, Kenny, it's nice to be important, but you know what? It's much more important to be nice. Till next week, be safe, God bless, and peace out.
Peace out. Thank you, gentlemen. God bless you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to spend with us. You've been listening to I Am Dad Podcast. We hope that you have been informed, encouraged you to think, or even inspired your heart for the love of dads. The conversation does not end here. Come back and join us next week. Same time, same place. Or you can continue the dialogue on our I Am Dad Facebook page. We also invite you to listen to past episodes, learn more about us, and keep up with special activities by visiting IamDadPodcast.com. That's IamDadPodcast.com. Until next time, I leave you with this reminder of manhood from 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 11. When I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. Because of this reminder, I will always understand that I am dad, period.